Welcome back, you guys. So today we're going to be doing the long-awaited one-year update on the Amphi-Pod ecosphere. This is the longest going ecosphere we have on our channel so far, and in my opinion, it's doing pretty darn good. Right when we made it for the first time, we did have to open it up again because we wound up finding a baby crayfish in here, and this is just way too small of a container to sustain something that, well, eats other living creatures. So we wound up taking that out. But within the first week after we sealed it back up again, it's been completely closed since then. So even a year later, its namesake still holds true. We still have amphipods actively swimming around in here. And we have a varying size of them too. I've seen some larger ones and then some really small ones. So they're still continuing their life cycle in here despite it being closed for an entire year. For a little while, we did have a bit of a scare. We added some Amazon frog bit to this container, and for a bit, the roots of it were going insane. In one of the previous videos, I kind of joked around that it reminded me of spaghetti. The roots were just all over in the water, and they have a lot of fine hairs that came off those roots. And one of the things that kind of concerned us about that is it made it very hard for anything to really move around because they were all over. It was just completely, they were everywhere. And we noticed that during that period of time, a lot of these smaller creatures that tended to swim around more, kind of like the Daphnia and the Cyclops, their numbers really dropped a lot. And we were concerned that the larger amphipods might start seeing a similar thing happen. As the weather started changing, the room that we keep these in, it kind of changes with the weather too. It's not as well insulated as the rest of our house. So when the weather started changing, the plants started getting affected by that to the point where a lot of the roots actually died off and cleared out a lot of the space in here now. So a good portion of the time, we actually could hardly see into the bottom at all. So there wasn't a lot of updates I could do because I just couldn't see into the container. After a little bit of that root die-off though, it's really been doing awesome. I'm so excited to know that the life in here is just still going. I've seen amphipods in here, bladder snails, cyclops, a little bit of Daphnia, very few numbers of them. I haven't seen any copepods really, and I have seen a couple of worms in here as well. So it's really neat to see that all is going on. And those of you that have been around for a while might have remembered that for a period of time we did have a small spider that was living on the top here. Unfortunately, this container can't really sustain a spider as well, so it did wind up passing away, and we saw springtails taking care of breaking down its body in that process. Despite all that, it did actually still live in here for over 6 months. Now, I kind of have a theory about it because a lot of aquatic creatures are actually larvae for different creatures that wind up flying. And I know that I saw a lot of interesting worms down here in the bottom that we later found out were non-biting midge-fly larvae. And what I kind of wonder is maybe some of those got to the point where they got to an adult stage and came up out of the water, and at that point were able to kind of give the spider some food. But if they're not able to continue their cycle, then they can't keep bringing more food to the spider. So after a while, it couldn't keep sustaining that spider. So unfortunately, it did pass away. Now, I'm not sure if that theory is really exactly what was happening, but it did survive for quite a long time without ever being opened up. And everything else in here that wasn't a larva, I, for the most part, still see it around. The only things I don't see anymore are, well, the spider and anything that was just a larval stage of the flying type of insects. So I kind of wonder if maybe that cycle started to happen but just couldn't keep going. When we made this, I put a stick in here that had a little bit of moss growing on it, and that moss has gone absolutely insane. You might be able to see right here, this whole area that's covered on the glass is the moss growing up and off the stick onto the wall where the moisture and the precipitation was, well, the condensation I should say, was on the glass, and it's just exploded on there. There's even moss coming up out of the water from the stick. A number of the other plants have grown up and actually sent leaves up and out of the water, and I've seen some of those leaves grow and hit the walls, and it doesn't seem like they like that very much because a lot of those leaves wind up dying and falling back onto the surface of the water. So the springtails that we saw before will probably wind up feeding off of that decaying plant matter that we can see of the plants that have started to drop some of their leaves when they get them out of the water. I will say the one thing that has really surprised me, we haven't had an explosion of bladder snails. I really expected something this small with bladder snails to just get completely overrun, but shockingly, I see more amphipods in here than I do see the snails. And really, that caught me off guard. I fully expected with how often and how many of their eggs we found when we were out there in the natural environment gathering this ecosphere. I thought for sure this thing would just be overrun if we even had one in here. But it's actually been really a mild population of it. I'm pretty happy because they do provide a nice diversity into the environment that's inside of here, but too many of them would just be too much. So I'm really happy about that, and it's actually exciting to know that so far it hasn't been overrun, and I kind of wonder if those temperature fluctuations are helping to kind of regulate the balance inside of here a little bit better. Maybe it's kind of beginner's luck, but in my opinion, this ecosphere might be doing the best even of our newer ecospheres that came after it. It's a little bit smaller, but it's just doing really well. It seems like it's striked a very good balance inside of here. There's not too much plant growth, there's not too many live creatures, it's just doing well. And it's kind of surprising because at first we wondered if we made some mistakes in this one. We made changes to our following ecospheres based off of what we did with this one, but it keeps going. It's just doing it right. I think we just happened to find a good combination that just settled well. There's not too much nutrients in the water, so the plants are going crazy. We don't get a bunch of algae on the walls, but there's enough to have that cycle where stuff is dying off and feeding the stuff that's living inside of the water. Overall, with this being sealed up for an entire year, I couldn't be happier with its state. It seems very stable so far, the amount of diversity in here, and even the plant life seems to have really just leveled out wonderfully. And beyond this just being sealed up for a year, this is kind of marks the 1 year for our channel too. And I just want to say thank you for everyone that's been here from the start or our more recent additions to our channel. It has been an incredible journey along the way. We've had some ups and downs where we've had more videos and sometimes we've had a little bit less, but either way I want to say thank you all for letting us know what videos you enjoy and just being here along the way as we take part in these projects. It's been a lot of fun, and I've got a couple ideas in mind that I'm hoping that you guys will like in the future. Also, a quick reminder for those of you that enjoyed our plantless terrarium videos, we are making one of soil provided from you guys. So if you haven't already sent the soil in, and thank you for everyone that has already sent your soil in, you have until January 14th with information about how you can send it in the description below. The moss has grown up and off the stick all over on the sides. Just waiting for it to kind of turn. I guess I could turn it back. I thought that tower would take a little bit longer. Okay, so here's the part that I was talking about. What do you do? How?